Hello again, chaps and chapettes. How are we all doing? It is lovely to see you all again. As always, the story I've got for you tonight, guys, is somewhat upsetting, but on the whole, rather unsurprising. We have 3 more English patriots who have fallen victim to Keir Starmers' Stasi police. This time 3 men from the Epping protest over in Essex back in June, July time have today been sentenced, rather harshly sentenced if you ask me, for what some would say would be very minor infractions to the rule of law. The rule of law, of course, being in inverted commas. So let's just jump straight in and see what's happened to these poor chaps, shall we? 3 men have been jailed for their role in violent disorder outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Essex. Martin Pegram, Dean Smith and Stuart Williams all pleaded guilty to violent disorder at earlier hearings. This does beg a question from me, my friends. Whenever you get people from protests, such as anti-migrant protests or proud to be British protests, you know, the ones that are awash with St George's flags and Union flags, that kind of thing, anyone on the right side of the political spectrum, really, is arrested, hauled up in a court in front of a judge who is coercing these people to consistently plead guilty for very minor infractions, things that are not even written into law half the time. Lucy Connolly is a prime example. She pleaded guilty to stirring up racial hatred by tweeting something that was on her mind, her own opinion. There was nothing racialist there. There was no incitement to violence. She ended her tweet with "For all I care." Now that is a tweet from someone who is mentally drained, fed up of the way our country is heading. Yet she was coerced to pleading guilty. I watched the interview with her with Dan Wootton, and she said her lawyer advised her to plead guilty. You've got to remember, right, with legal aid, and you get, I don't know, these lawyers provided from the police. Legal aid comes from the government, comes from the civil service, and we all know what infests our civil service at the moment. Communists, Marxists, socialists, batshit bonkers, leftists. These lawyers that are representing these people who get pulled in from the police want to see swift justice from anybody on the right side of the political fence. Some of these people who get arrested have never had any interaction whatsoever with the police, with the law, never been arrested, never been to court, so they are completely clueless of how to go down a certain road of not pleading guilty. Their lawyers that they get provided would say, plead guilty, get a shorter sentence, swift, thank you very much, out in 6 months, when half the time it's way more sentencing than that. What you should do is plead not guilty, fight it, for the best of your abilities, get your own solicitor, even if it means bankrupting yourself. Get your own solicitor, take it to a Crown Court, not a magistrate's court, and fight for your fucking freedom. Because believe you me, I'd say about 7-8 times out of 10, you will win your case as long as you fight. Don't just lay down, curl up in a ball into a fetal position. You stand up and you fight what is being presented to you. At least that is, in my opinion, anyway. The 3 Essex residents have now been sentenced for a combined time of just over 6 years, with each jail term varying from 22 months to 28 months. The sentencing at Cheltenham Crown Court on Monday was the first for violent disorder outside the Bell Hotel in Epping. Gordon Carse, however the hell you pronounce it, prosecuting at Cheltenham Crown Court, said this case is about the disorder arising from a high-profile protest in Epping outside the Bell Hotel on July 17th this year. He said the protest was a third in a series which he described as ongoing, with the first 2 on July 12th and 13th having been relatively peaceful. He said police estimated around 500 protesters attended at the height of the incident on July 17th, with a flatbed van carrying a sign that said "Protect our kids." He said 50 counter-protesters arrived and police worked to maintain public order and keep the 2 groups separate, but police officers were subjected to sustained attacks over 4 hours. Yes, that's because you escorted them to the fucking protest. You placed them right in front of irate parents who wanted to see the sanctity and the security of their children maintained. You bust in a boatload, no pun intended there, excuse me, a busload of far left lunatics to call these people racist. And what did you do? You stood back and you protected the hairy crusties. That's what pissed people off. And I think that's what sparked the disorder during these protests. Mr. Cass said officers were pushed, punched and kicked, police vans were kicked and damaged, and missiles were thrown towards the officers. Was that before or after I saw police vans running people over, literally running over protesters? Do you remember seeing that video clip? Is it any wonder they were fucked off when the police were literally trying to kill people with their vehicles? Got to have a memory like an elephant in this game, my friends. He said the disorder forced the early closure of nearby businesses, or diddums, and neighbouring forces, including the Metropolitan Police, helped Essex Police. He told the defenders, each of you what you did went beyond protest, and that became criminal when you acted as you did. He said he was satisfied. This was racially motivated. Oh, here we go again. At least in part. The lawyer for Williams said he got carried away, while the representative for Pagum said the defendant described his own behaviour as idiotic. He was told to say that in the court by his representatives. Just as I said at the top of this video, these people do not have your best interests at heart. They want to see you go down. They want to see you in a deep, dark hole, rotting away for as long as the law allows. Dean Smith, who punched an officer's shield and pushed and shoved police, was jailed for 1 year and 10 months. Now, bear that in mind, guys. 1 year and 10 months for punching a riot shield. Okay, just bear that in mind. Make a mental note of that sentence. Martin Pegram, who kicked a police car, kicked out at officers. Look at the wording here, guys. Kicked out at officers. Didn't say whether he connected or not. He kicked out. If someone's going to be charging at you, for example, with a bladed implement, you'd kick out at them to keep them away. You don't have to kick. It's an automatic reaction. It's a humane reaction to kick out at something you want to keep away from you. It does not stipulate in this article that he made contact. Who kicked a police car, kicked out officers, and threw a car at police. Threw a car at police. That must be some wording. Threw a can at police, I assume that means. Was imprisoned for 2 years and 2 months. Make a mental note of that sentence also. Stuart Williams, who kicked out at an officer, again kicked out, doesn't say whether he made any fucking contact, at an officer and got on the roof of a school for children with special needs, will serve 2 years and 4 months. Defendant Luke Fleming, 21, appeared separately before the court on Monday. Fleming of Burcrest Hill pleaded not guilty to a charge of violent disorder and was bailed until the trial can take place on March 23rd at a Crown Court. Just as I was saying before, plead not guilty to these trumped up charges and there's a high percentage you will win your case. So that's what happened. Rather harsh sentences, wouldn't you say, over 2 years for kicking out at police officers and getting on a roof and also punching a riot shield. Gets you almost 2 years inside. That being said, my friends, I want to finish by looking at some dates, okay? So, can you remember back last summer, there was them 2 Muslim lads who punched the old Bill and broke a female officer's nose. Can you remember that? I'm sure you can. That happened over a year ago. Okay? That happened last summer. These 2 are still out on bail. And do you all know why? Because there had to be a retrial. Because the jury couldn't unanimously convict them. We've seen the videos. The court has seen the videos of them literally punching police officers and the after effect. That video that got released about 6 months after the attack, God knows why it got released so late, of that woman crying and holding her nose, that female officer. The court and the jury saw these videos. So what was inconclusive exactly? They are still free men, they are still on bail, even after 15 months after the initial incident. Whereas these three gentlemen, what's it been? July, August, September, October, 3-4 months, instantly, 2 years inside. What for? Getting on the roof, punching a riot shield and kicking out at police officers. This is targeted policing, my friends, targeted towards one set of people. Those people being right-wing, working class, English, white men and women. When you've got laws of the land that don't apply to every single citizen in this country, they are not worth the steam off your piss. They are about as much use as a chocolate teapot. It's kind of like if you are watching a football match, for example, and a member of the opposite team tackles a member of your team and breaks his leg maliciously. Did it on purpose. When Roy Keane tackled Haaland back in the early 2000s. It's akin to sending off the person who got their leg broken instead of the person who did the leg breaking. The exact same thing applies to the law in this country. Every time we get someone like them two Muslim lads get let off scot-free, well maybe not let off, but on bail for 15 fucking months for punching police officers, live, on video by the way, on bail, and yet you get people like this who are angry protesters who get jailed instantly inside of 4 months. You are going to get dissidents. You are going to get people who no longer follow the rule of law because it's worthless if it's only attached to a certain demographic of people and certain subsections within a community. Playing with fire is a dangerous fucking game, my friends. I just hope and pray, like I've said before on many occasions, that Nigel Farage and the rest of his cronies, when they take government in 4 years' time, have the bollocks to massively reform the police services in this country and dismantle the civil service and the Home Office because it is infested with crustaceans, bottom feeders, people who shouldn't even be in the country, let alone in positions of power. That's my video, my friends. Do let me know what you think in the comments. Carpe diem as always, and yeah, I'll see you next one. Cheers. If I'm not arrested and thrown in jail before then, that is. See you in a bit.